Hey everybody, welcome back around to the Blog and Grill. I am your host, Doug, here with your video blog for May 14th, 2014. I got your New York sports update as we are halfway through the Subway Series and the Mets are taking control. We're going to go inside Major League Baseball with our standings update as we are just about a quarter of the way through the season. We'll also talk about the next guy going for Tommy John surgery, NBA playoffs, Donald Sterling interview, and the NFL draft. So let's get right to the NFL draft. I'm going to answer 4 questions that I think are probably the most important questions after the NFL draft that we're now looking at. First one a lot of people are asking is, will Manziel start for the Browns on opening weekend? I honestly do not think Johnny Manziel will be the starter for the Browns. Jimmy Haslam has made that very clear that Johnny Manziel is the backup. He could win the job. I think the Browns are going to be a little too stubborn. They're going to stick with Hoyer, and they have a Week 4 bye. So come Week 5, the first week in October, we could see Johnny Manziel starting for the Browns, and that's the spot where I'm going to kind of look at him to come into that starting lineup for them. The next question is about Michael Sam. Will Michael Sam make the Rams roster out of training camp? I want to say yes, because I like the story of Michael Sam. I like the against all odds of Michael Sam, and I think Michael Sam deserves a spot on the Rams roster, and ultimately I think he's going to be able to do enough on special teams, show enough in the preseason, and I'm going to think Michael Sam will make the Rams roster out of training camp as kind of a sub rusher. It'll be interesting to see, but I think he will make the Rams roster out of training camp. Next question is, which player will have an immediate impact on their team? And I have to go with the first-round pick by the Saints of Brandon Cooks out of Oregon State. With Darren Sproles out of that lineup, going to Philadelphia, I like the pickup of taking Brandon Cooks, putting him in that spot, and I'm going to say that Brandon Cooks could have a huge impact with Drew Brees, one of the best quarterbacks throwing to him. And Brandon Cooks right now is my pick for Rookie of the Year in the NFL. And the final question is, which quarterback in this draft class will have the best career? I would have said Derek Carr if he didn't go to the Raiders. I like Savage out of Pittsburgh, really out of the top 3, the best quarterback I like is Blake Bortles. I like Derek Carr. I think Jimmy Garoppolo has an excellent opportunity. So, it's really up in the air who's going to have the best career. It's really going to be who gets a chance. I think Blake Bortles is going to sit this year. Johnny Manziel will sit part of the year. Bridgewater could be the starter right out of the gate. Carr, he could win a job. But really, this draft class has a lot of quarterbacks, but not a lot of great quarterbacks, okay? So I think it's going to be interesting. Ultimately, I think Blake Bortles is going to have the most opportunity going down the stretch. And I think Bortles could be the best quarterback coming out of this draft. Okay, time for NBA playoff updates as we go to each NBA series. And let you know what's going on, I'm going to talk in depth about the Thunder-Clippers game as I caught the end of that one last night. Interesting series all the way around right now, for sure. Let's go to, hold on just a second here. Okay, so let's go inside each series right now. Last night, Washington took apart Indy. Marcin Gortat, 31 and 16 on a great game. John Wall also had 27 as we saw him shoot the ball a little bit better. And the Wizards now trail 3-2 in the series. Game 6 back in Washington on Thursday. We could be going to a Game 7 on Sunday. I think that would be very exciting, and I think it's very likely at this point as well. I'm taking the Wiz in Game 6, and I'm taking the Wiz in Game 7. Pacers just don't look like they want to play well together. Brooklyn and Miami will have Game 5 of this series tonight. LeBron James coming off his 49-point effort in the 102-96 win. The Heat are going to have to find other weapons right now, okay? Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, hitting timely shots, but they need to have a more solid impact on this game. I'm going to take the Heat tonight to win and move on in the series. Portland and San Antonio. Portland came back and won Game 4 at home. I could see Portland winning Game 5 in San Antonio and pushing it to a Game 6 where they would lose at home. So I will take Portland tonight, and I will take the Spurs on Friday night to win the series. And the final series to talk about is the Clip Show and the Thunder. I picked the Clippers to win the series. I still think the Clippers will win the series. Russell Westbrook had 38. Chris Paul made some bad turnovers late. There was the bad call late where Reggie Jackson pretty much booted the ball out of bounds. It was called out of bounds on Matt Barnes. It was a foul on Barnes, but still, just really what I saw was a lot more activity on the Oklahoma City offense late in the game. They ran more, designed offense, not just a Westbrook and Durant play. Durant hit some big threes. Chris Paul had the big foul. But really, the Clippers showed that they still are a little young when it comes to this playoff thing, and the Thunder do have a lot of playoff experience on their team. Okay, I just want to talk about the Donald Sterling interview briefly. Of course, everybody's now heard Anderson Cooper's interview with Donald Sterling the other night. My takeaway from it was that Donald Sterling ultimately is a creep. He's an old man who doesn't always know what he's talking about. Sometimes it seemed like he didn't know the camera was on. He didn't know what Cooper was talking about. Him and Cooper had some good back and forth. It was fun to watch, really, just because it was just such a well-done interview by Anderson Cooper. The journalist side of me kind of came out in that. And Donald Sterling just showed that this guy does not deserve to own a team. This guy should not be in the NBA. This guy should not be in business. Okay? I think what's going to happen, Donald Sterling is going to be out. The new CEO is making a transition now to get this team bought. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But I ultimately think by next year, Donald Sterling, Shelley Sterling, any of the Sterling family will not be a part of the ownership group in charge of the Los Angeles Clippers. All right, Major League Baseball, just about a quarter of the way through the season. I just want to run down through some standings, let you know division leaders and what's going on. In the East, we have Baltimore at the top at 20-17. Yankees, Red Sox, and Blue Jays all a game and a half back, and Tampa Bay at 4.5 back. In the Central, Detroit really starting to run away with it. They now have a 5.5 game lead over Kansas City, 6 over Minnesota, and 7 over White Sox and Indians. Out West, Oakland's won 6 in a row. They're starting to heat up and get rolling. They're now 10 games over 500 at 25-15. 3 teams in this division, or 4 teams in this division in the race. Angels, Mariners, and Texas all within 5 games. In the National League East, another tight division. We have Atlanta on top, 22-16. Then we have the Nats, 2.5 back, who just really haven't gotten any positive momentum going. Mets, 3 back, Miami, 3 back, and Philly just 4.5 back. So we have some tight divisions throughout. In the National League Central, Milwaukee, 25-14, starting to run away with it. They have a nice 5.5 game lead over St. Louis, 7 over Cincinnati, 8.5 over Pittsburgh, and 11.5 over the Cubbies. And out west, the Giants continue to set the pace, 25-15. They have a 2.5 game lead over the Rockies, 3.5 over the Dodgers, who are starting to play better. Padres 6 back, Diamondbacks 10 back. One of the big issues in baseball right now has been the Tommy John epidemic. Jose Fernandez tore his ulnar collateral ligament in his elbow. He's going to be out for the rest of the year. He will have Tommy John surgery. Just a surprising thing. I think it's a combination of people throwing harder, kids throwing more innings when they're young. But the positive I think you have to take from it now is that people can come back from this surgery and be effective. So what I'm posing as a thing is get these guys in the majors early, get their elbows ripped up, because they're going to get ripped up. Regardless, elbows are going to get ripped up. People are going to have this surgery. So get them in, get them ripped up, get them surgery by the time they're 23. They're back by the time they're 25. And most guys do come back stronger and do not have to have another surgery if taken care of properly. Jose Fernandez, it's bad for baseball. The guy is a rising star. He's a great pitcher, a fiery guy, fun to watch, brings in minorities in Miami, and actually gives the Marlins a reason to watch baseball in that area. So it's bad for Major League Baseball. They need to figure it out and do some testing. But right now, my solution, rip up the elbow, get them in early, rip them up, get them back by the time they're 25. That's all I'm saying about that. Time for your New York sports update. Yankees dropped the first 2 at home to the Mets in the Subway Series. Now both teams are at 19 and 19. They head for 2 at the Mets. We got the Yankees and Mets tonight, ESPN 7 o'clock. Masahiro Tanaka 5-0, 2.57 versus Rafael Montero making his Major League debut. Tomorrow night we'll see a Yankee guy make his Major League debut as Chase Whitley will take the mound for the Yankees, and just a bad stretch for the Yankees of pitching. Steve Kerr, close to signing with the Knicks, could make a decision by the end of the week. And just a little hockey tidbit, Rangers move on to the Eastern Conference Finals after a big win over the Pittsburgh Penguins 2-1 in Game 7. That is the only time I'll ever mention hockey. Friday I'll be back, MLB Power Rankings, NBA Playoffs, and more on the Clippers. New York sports update as well. NASCAR heads to the Sprint All-Star Challenge at Charlotte. We'll talk about that too. Always remember to follow me on Twitter at YankeeBaller415. That is YankeeBaller415. Comment, question, subscribe to my page. Thanks for tuning in to the Blog and Drill. I will be back on Friday. Have a good rest of the week.